Hello, everybody. We are back for another episode of Ask the Sex Therapist, and we have a special guest today who is a global healing expert and award-winning author. So, Inna Segal is a pioneer in the field of energy medicine and human consciousness, and the best-selling author of The Secret Language of Your Body, which has been translated into 27 languages and sold over 1 million copies worldwide. That's like so wild. We're going to talk more about your journey, so I won't give too much away, but you've been doing this work for like 25 years. I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you for being here, Tina.
Thank you, Heather. It's really exciting to be here and exploring this topic. I don't get to explore it very often, so I'm excited.
Thank you. I know I'm a little biased, but I obviously think that sexuality is a pretty fun topic. And needed, because we think so much about our body in terms of, how it functions and if we have a torn meniscus or if we're bloated or whatever, but we don't spend as much time, I think, kind of like living in our body and living in our sexual energy. What are your thoughts?
100%. And I think that it was so interesting for me as well because my partner was away for several months not that long ago, and I was kind of thinking, okay, I go through cycles and themes of things that I want to work on because I don't like teaching things that I don't do. And
Yes.
and so I go through these cycles and I kind of go, where can I get better? Where can I explore more? And exploring the feminine has definitely been a huge kind of, I cycle and recycle back to it, mainly because I feel that if you are in a female body in particular, we live in a society which is very masculinized. And because it's masculinized, we become doing machines. And it was really interesting because I was in the UK because my partner is from the UK, but we live in Australia, and I was watching his mom, and she's an amazing lady that it's just, but is a doing machine. And I was like, when do you relax? When do you connect to the feminine? When do you allow yourself to feel feelings? And it was like I could see that she was taught just to survive and just, to kind of get through the day, to be positive. Like she's really, really positive. But it was like, when do you connect to your body? When do you allow sensuality to come through? And so while Matt was away, I was like, okay, cool. I have this time here, without him, to really allow myself to connect to my body and also to actually look at from the feminine side, from that flow state, from that heart connection that allows you to feel much more relaxed inside your body. But through, I feel that it often happens for me personally, and I think for a lot of women that I've spoken to and taught over the years, it's like when we let go and we allow ourselves to dance, we allow ourselves to move, we allow ourselves to, to touch our bodies in different ways than we're used to. And I think we were just having that little discussion about body image. It's like, if I look in the mirror and I say to myself, oh my God, I hate my body and I'm overweight and I'm this and I'm that, like most women do, that is not sexy, and it's not sexy for you. So it's kind of like, how do I get that sexy on from the perspective of allowing, because sensual energy moves through your body when you actually relax, when you allow, right? And when your own imagination, when your own I guess creativity, let's call it creativity, comes in. And I think that, it's such a huge topic and there's so many ways to begin approaching it. I remember when I was going through this, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, because I go through different cycles and I'm like, okay, what does it mean for me now to connect to my feminine? And at that time, I was really into color and dressing up. And so I'd have this big mirror in the middle of, I lived in a house that had this huge space
Mm-hmm.
where, a different partner that I was with at the time, would use this space for, he was an actor, so he would explore his acting, and
Oh,
I would
interesting.
explore my dancing and femininity, and would have this, when it was my turn, let's just say, I'd have this mirror, and I'd also have this wall space. And it was really interesting because it was like, the idea for me was to decorate the wall space in the way that really allowed me to be reminded of what feminine meant to me. So
Mm.
I had, one of my best friends is a designer in Paris, and he made me a dress. And to be honest, somebody in my family borrowed it and changed it, and so I couldn't wear it because a long story around boundary. learning, learning how to have boundaries with people. So anyway, this person borrowed it and decided to make it fit her body, and so we don't have the same body sizes. So I was like, great, okay. And and I love this dress so much, and I was like, well, that reminds me of femininity, but I didn't really get to wear it. But I can put it on my wall. So I literally had this
Dang.
amazing, stunning green dress on my wall, and I had this, stiletto shoes around. It was just such a creative wall
Mm-hmm.
that, every time I came out of my bedroom and I would see it, I'd go, oh, okay. A reminder to slow down, to breathe deeper, to reconnect with myself. And then I would go, and I think, I was mentioning to you, I learned lots of things from David Data. At the time, I was really looking at Tantra and tantric ways of reconnecting. And, he was talking about, how do you really hold that feminine, especially if no one showed you?
Yes.
Like, because how many of us have been shown that?
Well, yeah, really none. And I remember growing up, I think my dad was sometimes like, well, you could be a little more feminine. And I'm like, first of all, why are you saying that? What does that even mean? And I think a lot of us grew up thinking, like, does that mean wear more dresses? No, that's
Yeah.
not what it's about. Now I get it better, but would you explain that a little bit for people? Like, what does it mean? And like, why is it important?
Well, yeah, because what actually happens, and, I definitely learned a lot from David Data, is that with the feminine part of us, what we need the most is to be seen. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
when we're seen in the feminine, we start to open up, we start to shine, we start to express ourselves. And that's why whenever we're with somebody in that feminine state, we're going, am I feeling it? Am I not feeling it? Am I connected? Am I not connected? And,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why you actually listen for everything to do with connection.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that when you've been hurt, or when you've seen, and I don't know if you relate this to this, Heather, when I was 15 and 16, I was watching my mom,
Yeah.
and I was like, she looks like a slave to me. And, if that is feminine, she's just doing things again, being doing machine. Um, whatever my dad wants, she's doing for him. She's cooking, she's cleaning. And I looked at it and I was like, if that's feminine, I don't want that.
Yes.
I don't want
Yes.
to be that. And
Yeah.
then I remember when I was growing up, it was Madonna who kind of was the person that,
Mm-hmm.
to me, at that time, was this strong woman who
Mm-hmm.
represented power and success. And I was like, well, that's what I want to be. I don't want to be what I see my mom be. And so essentially, and Madonna is an amazing person, but she wasn't feminine. And so, well, some of it, but a lot more of it, that I want to get things happening. I want to get things done. It's much more of a masculine type of feeling, whereas the feminine is actually your internal self. So
Mm-hmm.
it's about you nurturing your inner self, where you go, well, how does my heart feel today? Do I
Yeah.
feel open? Do I feel constricted? The more constricted I feel, the less, sexy or sensual I am going to feel. So feminine essentially to me means nurturing. And again, many of us didn't see that. It's nurturing, it's playfulness, it's creativity, it's
Mhm.
time without limits. It's
Mhm.
actually giving yourself an opportunity to be adventurous, to be creative, to come up with ideas. It's
Yeah.
having time to smell the flowers, right? It's having
Mhm.
time to find yourself from, from inside out, where you go, this is the version of me that I am right now. And I remember when I really connected to this originally, if I can give a metaphor to
Mhm.
people, I kind of felt like when we're born into this castle that has all these different rooms, and each room essentially represents another aspect of your creative self that is uniquely you. And what happens is, as we get older, we're told, don't cry, don't be a baby, don't be this, don't show anger, don't show that. No, you're not good enough at this, you're not creative enough. We're told that we should compete against everybody when we go to school, as opposed to, well, why am I in competition with somebody else? Why don't you nurture me to be the best version of me? I should only be in competition with myself of how I can be the best in what I can be. And so we start to put ourselves down, we start to shut down, we start to become disconnected and disassociated. And we put on these masks, let's call them our protective layers. And if we look at this castle, we close the doors.
Mhm.
And so all of our colorful creative self is actually locked into these rooms. And to be, especially if you're a feminine person, because it's a little bit different for when you're a masculine person, for a feminine person to be sexy, you need to be connected to yourself. You need to feel almost that juiciness coming through from,
Yeah.
from, because you have reserves of energy, and you're being seen. You feel you're seeing yourself as well. You're taking the time to go, I'm important. And like my daughter, she's 22, and from when she left home, she started saying, Mom, I have date with myself once a
Oh,
week.
I love that. That's so cute. What a
Yeah,
maturity.
I know. And she'd go, it's my date with myself to connect to my feminine. And I go and I get my nails done, and I go to the park, and I have my matcha, and I connect with myself, and I just, relax. I have my journal, and I write down ideas, and then I go
Mhm.
and, I do something really, good for myself. I shop, or I connect to a color that I need to wear, and I kind of discover what that color is about. And so, and I could find, I said to her, it's so interesting, because we were having a conversation about sexuality a few months ago. I said to her, I'm going to be on, this podcast. What do you think? Like,
Yeah.
what should I talk about? I actually said this to her at the time. And she was like, I said to her, I'm just curious, especially about your generation and how you feel. And she was like, well, I actually feel like I grew up, and what was really interesting with her was that when she was 15 and 16, I was like, her name's Angelina. I'm like, Ange, come on, wear something sexier. Like, why do you wear, these things? And she's like, no, I'm not, I'm happy with these types of clothes. And then when she was ready, like she is definitely somebody who owns her sexuality in a really powerful way. And she said to me, because I was saying, look, what I grew up and what I saw in terms of femininity with my mom, how do you feel? Because I've had to work at it. It has definitely been something that I've had to go, what does this mean? I don't feel like I've had the best example, and I don't want to, it's not like I'm not the person who's going to be aggressive in their sexuality, but I want to be, attractive and sexy, and, connect with my partner in a loving way. But it's not like I'm not going to be like a Madonna type of
Mhm.
out there, that's not who I am. And so it was really interesting, because she said, oh, that's so interesting. I feel like, because we were talking about even going out, and flirting with someone, how most people don't know how to do that, because it's like we've been shut down so much. And she was like, oh wow, that's interesting that you say that, because I've never had an issue with that. I just feel, and what she said is that I feel so comfortable in my skin and in my body that I just feel like it's so natural for me to be friendly and flirty, and because I love my body. And she said, remember how you told me to love my body? And she said, I
Oh,
don't. She did come on the show, and she was saying, she said, it's like most people, even her age, she goes, Mum, I grew up with like this really bad body image around me, but not
right.
from myself. She's like, at school, every friend that I have, both female and male, are
Yeah.
constantly going on about their body and how they hate it. And
Mhm.
she said, it's like I've never really had this issue, because you've always made me feel safe, and you made me feel like my body was beautiful, whichever way, it was, wherever it
Right.
was going, and to love it. And she's like, I really look after it, and there were, when she was growing up, I was very much into healthy eating. We only eat organic food and we don't eat sugar. And she was like, it was really frustrating and challenging when we were growing up. And she was like, this whole celery juice thing was not up my alley. And she goes, but you're not going to believe it, I actually go out and buy celery juice sometimes for myself. And she's like, I learned how important it is to love my body. And I think that is such a difficult thing for so many people, is to start, because that is a starting point. It's to go, sometimes, sometimes my body, because what people do, especially as they get into their late 30s and 40s, and they put on weight, they go, oh, I don't like this, this is not how I was. And so they actually try to get themselves into a state of, I'm going to motivate myself, but motivating themselves from being aggressive and not nice to themselves, and negative about how their body looks, and
Yeah.
kind of pushing themselves, let's go to the gym because look, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that other. Right, as opposed to going, how do I work with my body so that actually, firstly, I find out, you were saying about bloating,
Mhm.
like I find out, why am I bloating, or why am I holding on to weight in particular parts of my body? Maybe it's because my body doesn't feel safe.
Yes. That's a big one, I
Right.
think, for a lot of
Well, it
people.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if I don't feel safe, then I'm going to protect myself.
Yeah.
And maybe, again, coming back to that, working in terms of the feminine in yourself, it's going, it's really taking the time to ask the questions and to go, what does safety mean for me? What does
Yeah.
being seen look like for me in terms of myself and my partner? How do I show up with my partner in terms of, I want to go back to, and I'm jumping a bit because I'm excited. But if we come back to that idea of, we're born into this, and we have all these rooms and we have all this access to creativity. So one of the things that I know, when I spent years and years listening to David Data about Tantra and stuff and attraction, that he
Mhm.
talked about, is that whether you're in a masculine body or feminine body, it doesn't matter. You need to connect to the part of you where you're showing different colors and different flavors to your partner. And he was saying at the time that, and this really resonated with me, that in particular, well, this is for both men and women, essentially, or even if you're in gay relationships or whatever relationship you're in,
Mhm.
when people feel like they're only getting the same type of energy, the same type of color, the same type of flavor, they start looking for something else. Because in particular, the masculine people, but I think it's both, to be honest, they want. So for women, it's like, I want to be acknowledged. I want to feel beautiful. I want to, feel like I'm shining. I want to feel like you're seeing my shine. Um, I have this conversation with my partner all the time. I'm like, okay, for women, if you want to have a good sex life with me, you need to ask me questions every day and you need to give me compliments. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you need to be doing. And he,
Your roadmap.
yeah, I'm like, this is what's gonna work if that's what you want, if that's what you're
Yeah.
looking for. And we practiced this because the other day he was like, oh, okay, so he literally, I mean, this is funny, but he's like, you know how hard it is for men, like after we've been together for a while, to ask questions. So he's working on creating an app that helps you to ask questions and do compliments for men.
Man, I love it. It's hilarious. Very cool.
Yeah, he's like, I'm like, and put this and this and this into the app to help men to, to do these things. But it's like, okay, you want me, like, this is the way. And I think it's so important to talk to your partner in this way as well. This is the way that it would help for me, for you to put me into the feminine. And he was like, and I said, and ask him the same thing. What would help you? And he's like, I want to touch. So I need you to touch me during the day and hug me, and that makes me calm down. It makes me feel more open. He's like, I don't care about words. I don't want words. I want touch. And I'm like, okay, well, I want words. So, right?
Different
So,
meanings, that makes sense.
exactly. So it's part of that because I'm like, I want to be seen and I'll give you feedback on this because this is something women don't do often. They just go, oh, okay, thanks for doing it. And then the man goes, well, did I do well? Did I do right?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, yep, you did so well. Do more of this.
Yeah.
This opened my heart, or this made me feel like this. So, you start to create that connection and safety, but also it allows you, let's come back to the, colors and what Data was saying is that we need to show these different sides of ourselves essentially. But for most of us, and this is where I think the big work is for many people, for most of us, we go from this castle with so many different rooms and possibilities. And by the time most of us are in our 20s, we're in this kind of 2 or 3 bedroom apartment where if we had to put colors to this, where, we're maybe good at red, brown, and yellow. And we're comfortable with expressing that because as we grew up, people were saying, oh, I like this. I like this personality. Oh, I like when you do this. And we went, oh, this is safe. This is comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. As opposed to, well, how about, and I come from a background of acting. So
Okay.
to me, when I started thinking about this concept, I remember thinking at the time, oh, I've been traveling the world and I've met so many amazing people, and I must have so many parts to myself. And I literally, I was connecting to myself. I remember I had this whole day to myself where my partner at the time was out working. And what shocked me was that even though I'd been traveling, I had exhausted myself. And this is what we do often. And when you're exhausted, you actually, all these colors and flavors are shut down because you're in survival mode. And so it felt to me that when I was in this castle, it was almost like I hadn't been there for so long because again, I'd been a teacher, I'd been a friend to somebody, but I had not spent the time developing and exploring these parts in myself, like, almost we can call them archetypal parts, where it was like, well, what is, a sensual, sexy goddess even mean to me? If I
Yeah.
was to embody that, I didn't even
Mhm.
know what that means. At the time it was like, what does it mean to be more playful? I don't even know how to play anymore, because life is so serious, and I have little children, and I have to get things done. I've got to get it around. And so
Yeah.
it was this particular time in my life, and I was in my early 30s, where I was like, wow, I need to go and figure that out. And this is where, again, comes back to where I had my big mirror in the
Oh, yeah.
once I kind of connected all these parts. I went, ah, okay, so if today I'm literally spending, and I know not everyone can do that, because
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I'm going to put this into my work and teach people this. So,
Mhm.
this is part of work but play, and so
Yeah.
I'd go, okay, today I'm going to wear this yellow dress, and I'm going to actually ask myself, what does it feel like to connect to yellow, right,
Mhm.
inside myself, which is the color of openness, softness,
Mhm.
warmth, sunshine, right? I mean, we both live in sunshine
Yeah.
states. Expansion. And so I talked to myself, I reflected to myself about what were the aspects of the color that I wanted to represent, that I wanted to own in myself, that I wanted to then show up as this warm, loving, kind, flowing, happy person.
Yeah.
And, people say fake it till you make it, but I think it's own it rather than faking it.
Yeah. Say more about that. Like, what do you think is, how do you own it?
I think you own it, but first you discover it and you start to play with it, and you just go, so to me, it was like color was the easiest way. Firstly, I love color, but it was also the easiest way to go. Well, I didn't really know what flavor. David Data talked about flavor,
Mm.
in sensuality. So spicy, hot, this and that. But and for some people that makes sense more, because they're into food and that speaks that language to them. For me, it was easier with color because it has so many layers, and I've written about it, and I talk about it a lot, and I have a
Yeah.
lot of it in my house, and I wear it, and so on. And so I and so I kind of went, even in acting, we would work with, like we would take a color, for instance, and we'd go, how would you walk with this color?
Hmm.
How would your voice sound if you were speaking from this color?
Interesting.
How would you, it's quite interesting, right? How would you touch your hair if you were touching your hair based on this yellow color?
Yeah.
How would you show up to somebody else, because it does make you feel so different. And
Yeah.
so I would stand in front of the mirror wearing this yellow dress, for instance. Each day was a different color and different type of dress, and I would also go, in terms of owning it, okay, so what does this dress represent? What does this color represent? How does it make me feel if I was to move that in a way that this dress makes me feel? What would be the song?
Hmm.
And so I would then stand there, sit there, whatever, and I would go through my song list, and I would
Yeah.
find the song, and I would go, okay, so now I've got the song. I'm going to dance and express myself
Mhm.
through that color, and pretend, and I'm
Mhm.
going to give myself permission to move and dance and express myself in ways I've never done. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to ask myself how that makes me feel. Does that make me feel strong? Does it make me feel sexy? Does it make me feel like I'm, loving, like, what is it, what does
Mhm.
it bring out inside of me? And then I might even take some time to journal about it and acknowledge it, because the feminine in us needs acknowledgement. It needs
Yeah.
to go, here I am shining and showing up,
Yeah.
and I need to be loved, I need to be seen, I need to be acknowledged. And what I found as well is that when women don't do that, this is where they get taken advantage of by people who, understand this and play on it and go, oh, okay, you're the person that has never been seen. So, this is when we start to look at the whole narcissism and all of that. I'll play this for you
Mhm.
because that's your deepest desire.
Mm.
And whereas for the masculine, the deepest desire is to live your purpose. With the
Mm.
feminine, the deepest desire is to be seen and to be loved. And so the feminine's always going, am I feeling the love? Like, is my heart full? Is it open? Is it expansive? And
Mhm.
so, often when I teach, I'll say to people, okay, with these colors, just coming back to that, and that ownership of it, because you can't own something you don't understand and you don't practice, right, and
Mhm.
explore. And I'll go, okay, so let's go with what are the colors you always use, that you are comfortable with, where you go, you dress like this. So you start looking at, am
Yeah.
I dressing in black all the time, or white or gray or browns? And is this really giving me the life force and the creativity? And what are the colors that I don't really like, and why? Why have I rejected
Yeah.
them?
Everything you're saying, I think also, like, we're not necessarily framing it like this, but it's really teaching people to trust themselves and to like tap into their intuition, because one thing I've noticed is that when I'm trying to solve something in my life by making a spreadsheet and making a plan, and sort of this little like analysis part comes out, and this like little anal retentive perfectionist part comes out, I'm realizing there's a lot of like efforting, there's a lot of sort of like striving, there's a lot of trying to like make something happen. And that's very masculine, and it's probably like an imbalanced masculine. What you're describing, I think, is such a nice, beautiful way to be like, what do I sense? And I see with a lot of people, but especially some women, even when I ask them questions on like my intimacy intake assessment, sometimes they're like, I don't even know how to answer it. Like I can't, like, just even like facing that feels like overwhelming. But what you're describing is like helping to heal that. Like, tune into yourself. How do you feel? Ask yourself the question. And at first you might feel like, I don't know. But and I think that's sometimes us blocking like our intuition and our feeling. I don't know. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I think that when you ask in terms of intuition and the I
Yeah.
don't know comes, you can you can let it block you, or you can go,
Yep.
wow, if I don't know, that means there is this incredible area to discover.
No.
Right? So you can
Yeah.
actually turn it around and go, okay, how about maybe I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, whether if they've been through a really bad breakup, or if
Mhm.
they're in a very long-term relationship, they often merge with their partner in some ways, and they don't know what they like or what they want, because they don't actually spend any time on it.
I know.
And this is where, again, the colors within you, the creativity dies in a sense,
Yeah.
because you're not allowing time for it, because you go, well, this is not practical, right? This, which is masculine, it's not
Mhm.
practical, and it's time consuming maybe, and I feel guilty and I have so much else to do.
Mhm.
But when you're in a relationship and you have children and you have nothing in yourself, you're literally going on empty. And I see this constantly, constant
Yes.
empty.
Yes.
you know it's like the feminine in you is literally screaming out, because that's how you get diseases, by the way, when you're empty and pushing, and you're using reserves, and
Yeah.
you're not nurturing or nourishing or paying attention to yourself. And I remember it was really interesting for me, for those people who are in that position where they're on empty and they just don't know things. When I broke up with with my partner many years ago, I remember speaking to, I think she was a relationship therapist, and she said to me, if you want to connect with your feminine, then you actually need to go out there and you need to spend some time with women, and you need to slow down, and you need to just, make it as a priority to go for walks, go do things. And one of the things she said was really interesting. I never thought about this prior to that. She said, you need to actually like hug or connect, or there needs to be some touch involved, because that touch from a woman to a woman, even though obviously not sexual in that way, but it heals you.
Hmm.
And I'd never thought about it in that way, like being held by, like really being held in a
Mhm.
loving space. And I actually remembered thinking, okay, I'm going to do that. Because she said, how would you really embrace the feminine without doing that? Because again, we're so busy and we go out, but most of the time we go out and we have a drink, or we go out, to a party. But she didn't mean that. She meant like go and spend time in nature together, like actually hang
Mhm.
out,
Yeah.
talk, hold each other, massage, give each other massages, whatever. And at the time, I remember meeting, because I was in a new state. I'd moved, and I was like, oh, great. So now I'm going to need to find people to connect with like this,
Yeah.
because I actually don't know. And that's also something that people go, well, that stops you. And it doesn't actually, if you really decide that that's important to you,
Mhm.
because you, you know, essentially we attract what we focus on the most. And so I remember feeling, and you have to become friends with being uncomfortable
Mhm.
a little bit, because whenever you change and you're doing something new, anything that we've talked about, you have to be a little bit uncomfortable. And I remember my mum, it was during COVID, and my mum said to me, you got to get out of the house. And she was in a different state. And I said to her, well, that's nice, but it's not that easy here, and I don't know anyone. And she was like, okay, stop with the excuses. Just, you know, yeah, some tough love. Because she's like, don't call me and complain again unless you've taken action.
My God. That's probably an example of healthy masculine energy with being.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great. I mean, I had some amazing, I have some amazing masculine friends as well. And they were like, anytime any negativity came out of me after this breakup, and they would go, like, I would say, do you think I'll ever meet someone? And they're like, oh my God, where is this coming from? Yes, you will. Just, come back to yourself. This is not the time, and so it was great. I had, I had, I just didn't have them in front of me. These people, they were in other countries and
Yes.
states and so on. But my mom was like, no, you've got to get out with people there. Call, she's like, well, just call people that you know. And I said to her, it's so uncomfortable because I might have met them once, or they came to my workshop. Like, this is
Yeah.
not comfortable to do that. And she was like, well, get over yourself. Just call them. You need to get out. And it was actually really good advice, I'm going to say, because
Nice.
because there was parts of me that were like, well, but I'm known, and people, know me from my book, and in the community, it's not like, I do have to I do have to have some discernment and awareness. But she's also right. I can make all the excuses in the world not to do that. And I remember thinking, if I ever have to say this to somebody, get out of your comfort zone. I heard you say this on
Yes.
other shows, and be uncomfortable and go and do
Yes.
this. Well, I better do this.
Yeah. I know.
And, right?
Yeah. I
Exactly.
thing. I'm like on a little vulnerability journey now where I'm like making myself uncomfortable, but I'm getting better at it. So it's getting more comfortable. But I'm like, I tell people to do this all the time. You know, I have to practice what I preach.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I remember I called this one lady and I was like, oh, this is really uncomfortable to say this to you because last time we only met once. I was saying how great my relationship was with my, at the time husband, and now it's not.
Yeah.
And I need people to spend time with, basically. And I was like, I really liked you when we met, and she was like, oh, she was like, oh, that's really great because actually there's another woman that is not doesn't live very far from you who I'm close friends with, and I'd love to introduce you to her. And what was really interesting about this lady was she was literally into exploring her feminine at the time. Like she was owning it from the perspective of she slowed down. So she was a nurse, her and a single mom. And so I'm like, well, I'm single with 2 kids now too. And she was saying to me that essentially she, um, in connecting to her feminine, and I'd never done this. And to me, that was watching it was like, oh my God, wow. She completely slowed down. And so I would say to her, okay, so what did you do today? And she would go, well, I lay next to the pool. I connected to my heart. I was allowing, I was really resting and I was allowing the sunlight to enter into my heart and I was moving that energy through my body. And then I had my journal and I had, my juice because we'd go and get juices together from the market. And it's like I had my juice and I was just in bliss and I was just resting. I was just really connecting. I was slowing down. I was allowing my creativity to come in. And, she would tell me all these things. And she would also, I think her and this other lady had this music. And I think music is so, so important for reconnecting to
Yeah.
yourself, especially your feminine. And she had this album from this lady, Fia. And I absolutely love Fia, I'm going to say, because there's a spiritual element there, but it's also so much about self-love.
This is
You
just
know,
FIA. I've never heard of this person.
FIA, yeah, she's
If anyone
amazing.
else wants to look this person up, FIA.
Yeah, it's European singer that is just,
Okay.
so they introduced me to this and I was like, wow, especially after a trauma or breakup, you really need to work on self-love. And I was like, oh, so when I would, I would wake up and I would go into, I would connect to my heart and I would go, okay, where are you at? What are you feeling? And I would literally, I mentioned archetypes at one point. I'd literally go, so if I could imagine the feminine inside of me, the feminine archetype, what would this part look like? Like, if I could see her, what is she, how does she see things in life? How does she stand? How does she,
Yeah,
what's
I like
the
that
thing?
curiosity. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the beginning, when I was tuning into this, or when I was asking that question and I was trying to visualize this part of, what is the feminine me? She would look down and she would be sad and heavy. And I was like, okay, right, rejected, whatever, traumatized through these emptiness and painful breakup and so on. And so I'd go, okay, really interesting. We're going to, how am I going to get this part to feel alive and be creative again and love life? And I was like, I'm gonna do several things, and one of them, I'm gonna start with, I always wake up, I do my meditation, and then I was like, okay, when I go to the shower, I'm going to start my day with a song. And it was Fear, usually,
Okay.
because it really spoke to me. And so as I'm in the shower, I'm allowing myself, to move a little bit, to feel the water, to cleanse,
Mhm.
to listen to this really positive song about, I mean, she's got many, about self-love or self-care and,
Mhm.
you know, opening myself to new adventures and opportunities.
Mhm.
And it was, amazing as I would, do that in the shower. And at times I would go into, oh my God, but I feel, because my ex-husband was pretty nasty when we separated. And I would feel like, well, after giving so much to him, why did I deserve this? And like this whole victim thing would show up. And I don't stay in victim for very long. I'm just, not that person, but I recognize it. And
Yeah.
I would go, okay, so let's hold on. What is it that made me do that? And so one of the things I found that's very, very important is that it's not just women, we as people, when we fall in love with somebody, we give ourselves away.
Mhm. Mhm.
We give our heart away, we give ourselves away, and we're kind of based on the fact that most of us grew up with romantic movies or romantic comedies or books,
Yeah.
and it's always like, oh my God, he's, if you're a woman, he's a bad boy that's, ends up being good and loving you and passionate and so on. I mean, that's the storyline for so many. And it's like, as long as you feel love, what if we, because we have this fear, what if we never feel love? What if
Right.
we never feel that amazing sexual connection and crazy, intense feelings of passion? And we have fear. We have,
Mhm.
that it may not happen to me. And so when we meet somebody and there is that attraction and there, and connection, we often go, oh, I'm going to throw my heart away because at least it's better. And I used to think like this, it's better to feel this
Mhm.
than not to feel it. So
Yeah.
even if he breaks my heart, at least I felt love. So I'm just going to give myself away. I'm going to give my heart away. And I think as you get older, you go, that hurts. Like that's painful when you when you do that. Right? So you start going, yeah, I may not do that in that way, but what does it mean not to do that? And
Mhm.
so as I was asking myself, and often this happened for me in the shower, I don't know why. It's like, oh, okay, I'm asking.
Very feminine about water and the flowing
Yeah,
and water.
yeah.
I certainly find that, and that's part of why I live by the ocean. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I love the ocean. Absolutely, there's that feminine aspect, and I would go, hold on, what is the wisdom? Okay, I've had heartbreak, and I remember thinking through with my ex-husband where I met him. He told me how badly he treated women, and in my mind, I went, oh, but not me, because I'm so special, because I'm so
Yeah.
I have these abilities, and I'm this, and I can help
Yep.
him, and I,
Yep.
and
Because we all want to feel special, right? So I think we do
well,
tell ourselves.
exactly, and so it was like, oh, he's not going to do it to me. And I remember that because the feminine is the part of you that slows down,
Yeah.
right? And in me, it was like, oh my God, I feel this attraction and he's so attractive. And, this type of thing, as opposed to, hold on, my heart is something I need to nurture because when it breaks, it's not that easy to put it back together, so to speak. I'm going to, and if I really embrace this feminine in a healthy way, I'm not giving myself away again. And it was this amazing wisdom and insights that were coming around this exploration. And I remember in that particular time, I got out of the shower and I put on another song because I have all these, artists and songs, and it was all about embracing the feminine. I was literally, you know, and the wise feminine that was also loving and sensual and so on. And as it was a very long song. It was like 7 minutes long. And I was standing there, and I remember I put on this really flowing dress And so I could feel it, right? We, as women, we need to feel. We need to feel that through the color, through the material, through how, it feels on our skin and looks. And I was taking steps forward, and it was like, I am now stepping into the wise part of myself that is still sensual and sexy, but the part of me that is not going to give myself away, the part of me that is now really going to value myself because I am valuable. And we don't, again, we're not taught that. We don't think in that way. And I
Yeah.
remember as I was kind of dancing and taking steps forward, with every step, I was like, okay, I'm stepping into, and the words of the song is woman, claim your power, and all of this stuff. And it was like, yes, I am literally claiming this into myself. And I'm going to say the other thing for women is that when you haven't had examples, like I didn't feel that I love my mom, but she was not an example of the feminine that I wanted to follow. So then, again, you can say, I don't know, or you can go, okay, where are these examples and how can I find them? And
Yeah.
that could be through a movie you watch, that could be through somebody having, a podcast
Right.
on, watching somebody on YouTube, reading a book from someone. They don't even have to be the person in front of you. And you, you can really, start to look at the qualities and write them down and actually go, like, for me, it was grace. It was the wisdom. It was allowing myself to have more time to enjoy things that have nothing to do with work,
Yeah.
to have days where I'm like, oh, I just don't know what I'm going to do. Let's just be creative. Let me just discover it, to do things that were just for me, that were just nurturing, just to go to. We had these ecstatic dance groups where you didn't have any alcohol, because I'm not a
Mhm.
big fan of alcohol. So I would go to these groups, and I remember one time, as I was really working on these qualities, like in myself, which were grace, to be more open, to be more fun, because I realized I lost my sense of fun with my ex-husband.
Mhm.
I remember this man came up to me and he said, "Oh my God, you're so graceful. That's the word that I got for you." Right? And I remember thinking, I remember thinking, okay, like, if somebody, a man saying this to me,
Yeah.
is like, people are seeing this, and it's like,
Yes.
yeah,
That's so
right.
cool.
You're embodying it, and
Yes.
people do see it. And then
Mhm.
when I met my partner now, he was like, "You're so." I remember I was like, I want somebody to say that I'm bubbly. Like, I want them to go, "Hey, you're so bubbly. You're so this," because that's not how I was feeling for a long time.
Mhm.
Because again, I'm gonna know that that's a part of me that I'm developing. And I remember when I met my partner, he was like, "I just love your bubbly energy," and I was like, "Well, that's not natural." Like, I mean, it is, but
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
suppressed,
Yeah.
you know. And I want to say also, how do you, coming back to that also question, how do you own it? So I have this, I like creating tools for people. So
Mhm.
I have books that I've written, and, like The Secret Language of Your Body, about
Mhm.
your health, and including sexuality and all the things that can go wrong with, like, and how you can reconnect. But when it comes to reclaiming and owning parts of yourself that, because of being a mother or a father, or being having heartbreak, or just difficulties in life you lost.
Mhm.
So I created this card deck. But for me, originally, the idea, and it's a completely different idea to anything else I'd done in that way,
Mhm.
I kind of went, all right, so if my heart is broken, how do I reclaim it? Like, how do I, but not just reclaim it, not I want to get wisdom from it, but I want to know it in ways that I've never known it before. And so I made this decision, and I thought every day I'm going to give myself, let's say, half an hour, and I'm going to connect to my heart. I'm going to place my hands on my heart. I'm going to breathe into it. I'm going to ask what's missing, like what is the part that's missing, and especially because it is so connected to that, all the colors and all the flavors. And I'm going to write a letter to myself, and it's going to be raw. Like, it's not going to be one of those lovey-dovey on the surface type of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I have ignored, let's say, my intuition for so long. And it would start with something like, dear heart, I'm so sorry that, you were trying to give me intuitive wisdom and insights, and I just completely ignored you. I ignored everything you've said, and I know that I've hurt you by doing that, and I've hurt myself. And I want to work with you, and I want to reconnect with you now, and I want you to start showing me the intuitive aspects that I've numbed, because I am ready and willing to start to transform my life in this way. And then, and I would sit with it, and sometimes I would again put on some songs and allow myself to feel, and, and to cry, or sometimes it'd just be this sense of, okay, wow, I'm bringing something back into myself. Because you've got to start with acknowledgement. And then I would do, I would do something loving. Like, I would rub my hands together, and I would do a little process where I'd place my hands, slightly apart, let's say 10 centimeters, and I would go, okay, what would be healing color? And let's say it's green, and green is amazing for the nervous system as well. Because whenever you're not feeling good, your nervous system is also a little bit out of whack, let's call it. And so I would go, okay, I've got this green, and I'm going to play with my hands with this green light. And I know green is about healing, and it's about reclaiming, parts of your heart, and especially when there's been hurt. And green is also really great for the nervous system. So I would focus on, going, I care about myself. I do, I value myself. And so I'd have these thoughts, and then I would send that color through my hands into my heart as I'm breathing it in. So it's like I'm giving self-love to myself, and I'd leave my hands on my heart. And then as I'm breathing kind of that energy in, and I'm feeling green going into my heart and healing it, I would then also focus on my nervous system, and in particular my back and my spine, and I would sense as this, it would be like a rain of green light going into my nervous system, and I would just move my body a little bit, because as you're letting go of stress and that tension, you can start to just move a little bit, and it would be that focus on receiving, but also letting go of, of what I needed to let go of, and I would do these types of kind of self-love practices daily for, I think, for several months. and it was so helpful. It was, such a important part. And then several years after, I remember, once I was with Matt, with my present partner, I said to him, hey, can I read you something that I did to help myself, and tell me what you think about it? And he's very masculine as a person, but he has that huge heart. And so when if he's touched, he'll get teary. And so then I know if what I've written is good or not. If I want to touch someone, right? So he's like my barometer. And I said to him, I read you a few things. And I was reading him these cards, like this, what I wrote to myself. And I said to him, I feel like, you know, I, I'm wondering if, like it's so personal and raw, but I'm wondering if that's what I need to share with people. And, I read him too, and he was really tearing. He's like, oh my God, that is so cool. He's like, you have to,
The winner.
yes, you have to create, and he doesn't always say that. He's very honest as well. He doesn't like something. He's like, nah. and so,
Okay.
and so I was like, I think I'm going to create a card deck on, how to heal yourself, heal your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have this Heal Your Heart oracles, and it was all about, we have an adventurous heart, and we have a joyful heart, and then we have rejected heart, and we have a sad heart, and we have a grieving heart, and we have a loving heart, and we have a sexual heart, and we have a sensual, and like all of these pieces of the heart that we need to reclaim. And I have to say, this card deck is doing very, very well.
That's awesome. That's
You know,
unique.
people,
Yeah, there's a lot of different card decks. So many dimensions of the heart specifically is unique.
yeah, and it's all about actually going, all right, what do I relate to? And, how do I work with this and reclaim? And I really encourage people to write love letters to their own hearts,
So cute.
as a way of going, again, reclaiming sensuality, reclaiming love, reclaiming
Yeah.
femininity, masculinity, reclaiming, your self-confidence, your love for your own body. Because again, when you love your body, it's a lot easier to lose weight. It's a lot easier to look after yourself. It's a lot easier to, to feel good inside the body, even if it's not perfect how it may have been when you were 20, or, or even if you're 20 and it's not how you
Yeah.
want it to be yet. When you love it, it's so much easier to go and exercise. It's so much easier to find the right exercise for you. It's so much easier to then work with something that you go, ooh, hey, I love you. So much easier to find colors to dress it. It's like
Yeah. Because you're
all of
in
it.
energy instead of rejecting it, which I think is really lovely. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing so much wisdom with us today and so much of your own personal journey. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that people listening do too. I think we like really got into the feminine energy in so many different ways to nurture and foster that.
Yeah. And I just hope people do, see that as something really fun to bring into their life,
Yeah.
like such a really fun thing to explore.
It is. And like sometimes I think we are like, oh, it's fun. I don't have time for fun. a lot of burned out people I think that way. But not only is it fun, but it's important, and it will calm your nervous system, and it may open up new doors for you and new insights and important opportunities as well.
And it will make your relationship so much more spicy in that sense, and so much
Yes.
more,
The
it's like,
polarity. You're gonna bring more polarity into your if you and your partner are both
yeah.
kind of just bringing the same vibes, so it's gonna be a little flat.
Yeah, and like I was saying, you can. It's so easy to get bored with each other, and then the minute you're bored with each other, there's no sexual vibe, right?
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
like actually bringing things, and it opens, the more you explore it, I'm going to say it also opens the masculine, which is doing things and getting things done. I just want to say that when I was really, like, when my partner was away and I was really exploring the feminine, at the same time, I remember he was struggling because his dad wasn't well and, was dying essentially when he was in the UK. And, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, there's things that he does in terms of our business, like marketing and stuff, that I don't like doing and I don't do. And
Yeah.
I just go, I'm like, I don't like it, I don't do it. And I remember thinking to myself, what if I, as I'm exploring all these different colors while he's away and I have all this time, what if I actually let go of the idea that I don't like it and I just listen to I don't know, something new, a new course. And I said to him, can you buy me this course? And he's like, on marketing. And he said, really? Are you going to listen to this? And I was like, yeah. And it was painful, I'm going to say. It was painful in the sense of where I had so much resistance. I had to like really convince myself, like only half an hour of this. And, and but I made the time to listen to half an hour and made notes, and then the next day half an hour and so on. And
Mhm.
I said to him, hey, I'm really excited about this actually, I have new ideas and new possibilities and opportunities. And he came back to me and he said, that is so sexy. Because I
Ooh.
didn't think it was sexy at all for me to do
Oh,
something like that.
that's interesting.
But he said, that's so sexy
Yeah.
because it's like, I know how much you don't like this, but it's like, I'm seeing you in a new way because
Yeah.
you're really stepping up and you're changing my perception. And that really, and he's like, I feel super attracted to you right now because I feel like
Well, you're
you've
being
done something.
vulnerable. He was like, "Oh, you can do anything." That's how, he's probably
Yeah.
like, "Wow,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't even like this shit. But you're coming up with these ideas."
Yeah. You
That's cool.
know, so that's what I'm saying to it's like it is also very practical as
Mhm.
you start to, and it's enjoyable because
Yeah.
you go, oh my God, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
And you allow yourself, then you start to bond with your partner in a new way. You have new conversations, you have
Yeah.
new ideas, and they go, oh wow, I've never seen this side of you. I don't want to look outside for somebody else who has a different energy. It's like, give me more of you
Oh.
because it's like I'm craving you now because you're giving me all these, aspects that I knew. And I really think that the more color you have internally, the more flavor, the more creativity, the less likely you are, one, to get bored with yourself, right? Because
Yes.
that's really important. The more
Yes.
likely you to value yourself, and the less likely your partner is to ever get bored with you.
Yes. And I think that's so important that like you can lean into this feminine energy and have fun doing it and bring out other sides of yourself. And sometimes I think it's like we have to allow ourselves to have that much fun and enjoyment and goodness. And that's sometimes the
Yeah.
work. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so great. Thank you so much for being here. And if people are like, "Ooh, I want more of what this lady is offering," where can they find you?
They can go to my website, which is innasegal.com, INNASEGAL.com. And in particular, if you're like, oh, I want to learn some of these techniques and some of how do you connect to yourself, how do you connect to your heart, to your body,
Mhm.
to love your body more, to have a relationship with it and a communication, and you can see that it could be fun,
Mhm.
then I have a lot of master classes, which are kind of like mini workshops when I teach them, and they go between 3 and 4 hours long
Mhm.
because I give you processes like I've talked about quite a few different processes, but in these master classes, you get to have a process, let's say, of awakening your intuitive self. So there's one that's literally, I mean, you can just go innasegal.com/masterclass. And this particular one, I talk a lot about archetypes and
Mhm.
how, I spoke about the feminine here, but in there I talk about a few different ones.
Cool.
And I also, one of them is is the intuitive part of you. And we actually do this process where we connect to, what would be this intuitive part of me, and how do I connect and get into my body more, and how do I work with color, like I've spoken about, and what does it say to me. And then there is also, and then I think we do a process also on, how do you sabotage yourself, and how can you stop sabotaging and start to, because the opposite of the saboteur actually is the part that lives in the heart. But the opposite of it, because we get rejected and we get hurt, and so then we self-protect, and we push people away, and that's how we often sabotage, or we push opportunities away. But on the other side, it is the wise guide that guides you in your life.
I love that.
So, and so anyway, there's a lot of amazing insights. And I always say to people, make sure you have a journal, make sure you connect all the pieces together. And, it just becomes a journey of healing and excitement. And at the moment, we just want people to have access to discovering this for free. And, and then if you want to go deeper, obviously there's other courses that you can do, but it is an opportunity in the future. It may, be a little, have a little cost to it, but at the moment, that's where we're at.
We'll
in
take
encouraging.
advantage, people.
Yeah,
We'll link to your website in the show notes too, so people can find it easily. But yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Inna. Thank you everyone for listening. Tune back in next week for another episode of Ask a Sex Therapist. Bye everybody.
Bye.